That moment in Ebbets Field there's nothing else that happened to me ever that was close to that when it came to baseball.
It was fate. That pennant belonged to us.
Then Sisler, of course, hitting that home run was it just hit us like a shock.
And the stretch, delivering, swinging a fly very, very deep toward left field. Moving back, Abrams, way, way back. He can't get it. It's a home run. A home run for Dick Sisler.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Comcast Sportsnet Classics. I'm Al Meltzer. Tonight we commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Phillies' end-of-the-season showdown for the 1950 National League Championship, one of the most dramatic games in Philadelphia sports history. October 1st, 1950 was the very last day of the regular season. A young Phillies team that had captured Philadelphia's heart was hanging on for dear life. A win over the mighty Brooklyn Dodgers would propel the Phillies into the 1950 World Series, and the loss would punctuate an almost unbelievable collapse. It was an era when baseball was the undisputed king of the sports world, and the Phillies were the undisputed doormats of baseball. In the words of the Saturday Evening Post, no other so-called big league team ever was so bad for so long. In 1949, though, the Phils had started to make some noise, and there were high hopes going into the ensuing campaign. Early on, those 1950 Phillies were affectionately dubbed the Whiz Kids, in part because they were the youngest team in the majors. Whether you're 9 years old or 90 or anywhere in between, this is one engaging story, a story about a young group of feisty underdogs who battled through adversity to carve out one shining moment. 7 months before their fateful game on October the 1st, the young Phillies were gathering in Clearwater for spring training. If you were a Phillies fan back then, you would have heard the late By Som introducing the team exactly like this.
Hi, everybody. This is By Som speaking to you from Clearwater, Florida. I'm glad you could join us for the start of this 1950 season, because this year it looks like we have a real contender.
The fighting Phils, it's a tough, tough team to beat. They're out to win every day. Every victory is sweet.
We know them as the Whiz Kids, and we love them like matinee idols. The average age is only 26, but the director is a former science prof named Eddie Sawyer, who works wonders with his cast. Leading off is Eddie Waitkus, a dazzling first baseman who plays alongside Mike Goliath, our clutch-hitting second baseman. Gran Hamner is a good field, good hit shortstop. And rounding out the infield is Willie Jones, who we all know as Puddinhead. Left fielder Dick Sisler is what you might call our darling of destiny. And in center, there's Whitey Ashburn, who always seems to get on base for cleanup hitter Dale Ennis. Behind the plate is durable Andy Simmons, who has the delightful task of handling 20-game winner Robin Roberts and hard-throwing lefty Kurt Simmons. Surprising rookie Bob Miller has chipped in with 11 big wins, and of course there's our one-man bullpen, Jim Constanti. As the city roars, the Whiz Kids fight their way to the top.
The fighting Phil.
Wound up in third place in 49, but boy, we finished up strong. And I remember Cy Perkins, he was one of our coaches. He said to me, you know, we're going to win the pennant next year, the way this club is playing. And we all felt that way in our own minds.
I don't think anybody was thinking pennant now in spring. You know, you do the best you can, and hopefully everybody in spring training hopes they're going to get there. I mean, they got some know it's an outside chance. You know, the odds are not great, but you're always hoping if things break for you that you're gonna be good. You're gonna get there. You're gonna get close anyway.
The attitude in the spring of 1950 was great. Had very good confidence in ourselves. After coming off the 49th season, I think we finished 3rd place, and we were very confident from the first day in spring training that we had a good chance of winning it.
The man to guide them was manager Eddie Sawyer, not your typical baseball man. He had a master's degree in biology and for many years was a college professor. He joined the Phillies organization in 1944, managing the Utica Blue Sox. And by 1948, he was manager of the Big League Club. Sawyer was mild-mannered and quiet, low-key, win or lose. But he could be tough when he had to be. And there was never any question about who was in charge. He was a leader who instilled confidence in his young and inexperienced Whiz kids.
We had a manager that was just the greatest thing that ever happened to any of us. He knew each of us. He knew our traits. He knew more about us than probably our own mothers did.
Sawyer was a real smart manager, a real smart man. And to me, he was like a second father to me.
I think before we ever left Clearwater, Eddie Sawyer, our manager, picked us in Clearwater to win the 1950 pennant. He never told anybody, never said anything. But when the season was over, Frank Yetters reached in his wallet and pulled out a piece of paper where they had asked Eddie for his prediction as to who would win the 1950 pennant. And Eddie wrote the Phillies.
If Sawyer's prediction were to come true, the Phillies would have to navigate the tough waters of the National League. The list of opposing stars in 1950 included Stan Musial of the St. Louis Cardinals, slugging Ralph Kiner of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Boston Braves pitching ace Warren Spahn, and Jackie Robinson, just one of many great players on the defending league champion Brooklyn Dodgers. The Phillies got out of the gate with a 7-7 start, but they put together a 6-game winning streak in early May and then won 5 in a row at the end of May. But Memorial Day weekend, they were 10 games over 500 and tied for first. A tight 4-way pennant race was starting to develop with the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Cardinals, and the Braves. The Phillies were keeping up with the glamour teams. By June of 1950, it was clear the Whiz kids were for real. The Fightin' Phils were legitimate contenders.
I think we sort of began to believe that we were pretty good ball players. I mean, comparing ourselves to the other clubs that we played in spring training, exhibition games, and things like that. We found out we could throw as well. We found out that we could run as fast. We found out that we had good gloves on the ball club and pretty good pop with the bat.
June is busting out all over the meadow and the hill. Buds are busting out of bushes and the romping river pushes every little wheel that wheels beside a mill. June is busting out all over.
On July 1st, the Phillies were atop the National League, percentage points ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Everybody thought we were too young, to tell you the truth, to do anything. In fact, we hit our stride about 2 or 3 years earlier than everybody expected. They didn't expect us to get into the first, second, or third team until 52, 53. But that year, everything, no major injuries, everything, and Constantine, our ace relief pitcher, everybody had a real good year. And that's why we started calling us the Whiz kids. We're a bunch of young kids.
The fans just became so fond of them. It was amazing. The crowds were tremendous out there. You drew 1 million people back then, and we drew 1 million people over 6 years, which was great for a big league ball club back then.
And as the season progressed, we just got more confidence as we went along. We had a lot of guys who had their best years ever in their careers. And Kurt Simmons really became an outstanding pitcher, and Semenuk, of course, had a big year, and Constanti, and it was just a bunch of guys got together and had great years, and the momentum just built as we went along.
As July turned into August, the Phillies firmed up their hold on first place. And as August turned into September, they were pulling away. St. Louis had faded from contention, and Brooklyn was a distant 7 games out. Over a 6-week stretch from late July through Labor Day weekend, the Phillies had amassed an incredible record of 29-9. They were going wild in Philadelphia, and yet dark clouds were starting to form on the horizon. Suddenly, the only luck the Phillies had was bad luck. On September 10th, 20-year-old pitching sensation Curt Simmons was called up to active duty in the U.S. Army. Pitcher Bubba Church was hit in the face by a line drive in a game on the 15th, forcing him out of the rotation. And on September 16th, pitcher Bob Miller's shoulder stiffened up, and the Phillies lost him. 3 out of the 4 main starting pitchers gone in one 2-week stretch. The loss of Curt Simmons was the most critical blow to the Phillies' pennant aspirations. The young left-hander was having a breakout season, racking up 17 wins. But when the Korean War escalated, 2 National Guard divisions were activated. Simmons was in one of those divisions, and off he went to boot camp.
We had a traveling secretary named Frank Powell, and he said, we're going to get you back. We're going to get you a 30-day extension or something so that you can be with the club. And of course, they couldn't do it. There was a lot of heat on, and a lot of people trying to get off and so forth. So when I was getting on the train on Sunday morning, he said, we're going to get you back and all that, but it never happened. It was tough, but like I say, you got to face reality, It was the situation that I was in, and there was nothing I could do about it. But sure, it was a disappointing thing, but you do the best you can, and whatever you have to do, you go serve your time.
We were 7 games in front, It's hard to blow that kind of lead, but it can be done. But when Curt left us, that really hurt us because he was pitching outstanding, and he was called up, I think, September the 10th into the National Guard. That really hurt us because if he'd have stayed around, I'm sure we'd have won the pennant by 5 or 6 games and had everybody rested for the World Series. But once he left, and then Bubba got hit in the eye with the line drive off Klazuski's bat, and Bob Miller hurt his back bad. So we went from a 5-man rotation to 3 guys out of it, and consequently it got a little squeaky there at the end.
As late as September 18th, the Dodgers were 9 games behind the Phillies and only in 3rd place. But Brooklyn caught fire and suddenly couldn't lose.
The Dodgers found themselves and began to play the level of ball of which they were capable.
The Dodgers started winning nearly every day in those last 2 weeks in September, while the Phillies were losing 10 out of 13. By September 30th, the Phillies' margin over Brooklyn was a mere 2 games. And as fate would have it, the schedule had the Whiz kids going to Ebbets Field for the final 2 games of the regular season.
In a pennant race like that, everybody's gunning for you. I mean, the lowest team, they're out there laughing and having a big time, and we're up there trying to do something. And it's pretty tough sometimes. Those guys on the other side and have not going anyplace. They're really having a ball trying to beat us.
Saturday the 30th, in the first of 2 games, Duke Snyder drilled a 2-run homer, and Brooklyn coasted to a 7-3 win. That 9-game lead from September 19th was down to 1. That brings us to Sunday, October 1st. 1 solitary game and a 1-game lead in the standings. A Phillies win would clinch the pennant, finally. A loss would force a best-of-3 playoff series, and the way things were going for the Whiz kids, that was not an encouraging prospect. Would it go into the books as a moment to be cherished, remembered, and celebrated, or would it be the culmination of the most colossal collapse in baseball history? The stage was set. Sunday, October 1st, was a bright sunny day in Brooklyn. By 10 a.m., the neighborhood around Ebbets Field was bedlam. Traffic was tied in knots for blocks around. Police estimated that as many as 65,000 people showed up trying to get tickets for a stadium that held only 35,000. By 2 p.m. game time, the old ballpark was packed and boisterous. The atmosphere must have been pure electricity. On the mound for the Whiz Kids was Hall of Famer to be Robin Roberts.
The thing about Sunday was I had pitched Wednesday, I'd pitched Thursday, I'd started in both games. So there wasn't for sure that I was going to pitch Sunday, and I wasn't told I was going to pitch till I got to the ballpark. And I had a hunch I might because he had been going with me, and I was by my locker, and Eddie Sawyer came walking over, our manager, and he had a brand new ball, and he gave it to me. He said, "Good luck," and that's the only time he ever did that. And that was the first time I knew for sure I was going to pitch it.
Here is Eddie Sawyer's starting lineup for the 1950 pennant clinching game. Leading off, Eddie Waitkins, who only 1 year earlier was shot by a crazed fan. He played first base. Hitting second, a man who needed no introduction to Philly fans, Richie Ashburn, the center fielder. Dick Sisler, whose father was a Hall of Fame first baseman, bats third and plays left. The big hitter on the team, Philadelphia native right fielder Del Ennis, hitting cleanup. Batting fifth, third baseman Willie Puddinhead Jones. Granny Hamner, the shortstop, hitting sixth. Seventh, catcher Andy Semenick, nursing an injured ankle. Second baseman Mike Goliat, batting eighth. Batting ninth and pitching, right-hander Robin Roberts, who would win 20 games for the first time in his career in 1950. For the Dodgers, the catcher was Roy Campanella. It was Gil Hodges at first base, Jackie Robinson at second, Pee Wee Reese playing shortstop, and Billy Cox at third. In the outfield, Cal Abrams in left, Duke Snyder in center, and around and right, Carl Furillo. The Dodger pitcher would be their ace 19-game winner, Don Newcomb.
No matter what you do, facts are facts. Who else would you give the ball to the last game against Brooklyn? There's only one man in this world to go to, and that was Robbie.
I was stiff and sore because I'd pitched a lot. And I warmed up, and I was stiff and sore. And I looked over, and Newcomb was warming up. And Nuke had pitched as much as I had, only he had been for the Dodgers, and they were winning. And I thought, my goodness, he's pitched as much as I have. He's got to be as tired as I am. And I never felt bad again the whole day.
I remember I couldn't go to sleep Saturday night. I didn't sleep that well. Kept thinking about the game and tomorrow. But it turned out beautifully. We were very quiet. We were very quiet that day, and usually we weren't a quiet group. But it was a good feeling. It was a good feeling. All the guys felt pretty good.
There was this, I suppose there was a sense that a dynasty was in the making. Dodgers had won in 47, slipped up in 48, won in 49. Now people in Brooklyn thought, well, now we're going to come from behind and win in 50. So there was an excitement and a sense that this National League season belongs to Brooklyn.
Ebbets Field was packed and rocking, or in the words of the Philadelphia Bulletin, a howling crowd in the wildest baseball city in the universe was wreaking every form of vocal wrath upon the brash outsiders set upon robbing their beloved bums of the league's greatest prize. Against that revved-up backdrop, it was time for the last game of the 1950 regular season. Meanwhile, back in Philadelphia, if you wanted to follow the game, you had to listen on the radio. And folks did, at home, on Chestnut Street, wherever. The Dodgers took the field to start the game. On the mound, Don Newcomb started strongly, retiring the Phillies 1-2-3 in the top of the first. Robin Roberts went out to pitch the bottom of the first, and after giving up a leadoff walk, he got the next three Dodgers in order. It was 0-0 after one. Both pitchers remained in control through the next 4 innings. Newcomb gave up 3 singles and a walk, but didn't allow any Philly to get past first base. Roberts, meanwhile, allowed only one hit through the first 5 innings and had the Dodgers completely under wraps. In the top of the 6th, the Phillies broke through. With 2 out and nobody on, Dick Sisler and Del Ennis delivered singles. And then this man, third baseman Pudd'nhead Jones, stroked a clutch base hit up the middle to make it 1-0 Phils. Then came the bottom of the 6th and one of the strangest plays ever. Pee Wee Reese hit a fly ball to right field, which stuck in the screen on top of the wall. If the ball would have bounced off the screen, it would have been in play, but it stuck. And Pee Wee Reese circled the bases for a bizarre inside the park home run.
In the game, what Reese did, and no one ever did before, and there being no more Ebbets Field that no one will ever do again, he hit a Roberts pitch on a high line to right center, and it hit the screen just above one of the poles on which the screen was mounted, and it pushed out the stiff mesh. Clearly hit the ball very hard.
Reese's home run was a fluke. The one run they got was a fluke.
And it was a screen, not like the screen, say, they had at Fenway behind the big green monster, a soft screen. This was a rigid screen. Ball hit off the lower part of the wall, upper part of the wall, or the screen. It was always in play.
Ah, gee. Home run on a ball like that. But you bounce back and keep going. Next thing you got to keep going. You forget it.
Yeah, well, he'd laugh about it. It was, it's a happy thing. I homered into the screen. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but it did happen.
Picture the scene once again. 50 years ago, October 1st, 1950, the final game of the season, and the fighting Phillies, the Whiz kids, are clinging to a 1-game lead over the Brooklyn Dodgers. There's a packed house at Ebbets Field, and it's loud and rollicking. The score is tied 1-1. It is now the bottom half of the 9th inning. Robin Roberts is still pitching for the Phillies. Stan Lopetta is now catching, having replaced Andy Seminick in the 8th. So here we go. The Dodgers have the top of the order coming up. First, Cal Abrams, and then Pee Wee Reese.
Abrams led off, and I was 3-1 on him. And I threw him a ball that was inside. I mean, I thought it was a strike, but the umpire disagreed with me, and I walked Abrams. And then Pee Wee's up, so I'm trying to keep the ball in so he can't bunt, throw it up here. So he bunts 2 back to the screen. Well, I've done a real good job. And then I fired it, and he hit a line shot to left field for a base hit.
Now the Dodgers have runners on first and second with nobody out. It's a possible sacrifice situation. But the Dodgers have slugger Duke Snider coming up with these stats for 1950. 31 home runs, 107 RBIs, and a .321 average. Meanwhile, in center field, Richie Ashburn moves in a couple of steps. The voice of the Phillies in 1950 was Gene Kelly. No, not Gene Kelly, the dancer and movie star. This Gene Kelly was a longtime local sportscaster. And the radio play-by-play calls you're about to hear are not recreations. They are Kelly's actual calls over WPEN radio, preserved to this day on a 78 RPM record that was pressed shortly after the October 1st game. Let's listen as Robin Roberts gets set to face the Duke of Flatbush.
Snyder steps in. 2 grounders to the pitcher, and he ran into his own ball for 0 for 3. Robert stretches. Throws. Snyder takes full touch. Line drive to center field. Ashburn races him with the ball. Here comes the throw from center field. He is out.
And everybody in the world was expecting Snyder to bunt.
Snyder was not a good bunter, but people said, well, the Phillies expected Snyder to bunt. And because they expected Snyder to bunt, Richie Ashburn was coming in playing much more shallow than he normally would against a power hitter like Snyder. So he'd come in and back up second base in the event of a play at second on a bunt.
He hit a shot, a one-hopper right to Ashburn, and Ashburn made the best throw I've ever seen him make in his career. He threw a perfect strike, one bounce to Lapata, who went in for Semenuk. He was out by 10, 12 feet. There's no way he's going to knock Lapata over, because Lapata would have killed him. But he was really set, waiting for him to come in.
As long as I had that ball in my hand, and even if it was a close play, I guarantee you that Mr. Abrams would not have scored. Because, well, I love blocking home plates, and as long as I had a chance to have that ball in my hand, there ain't too many runners that scored on me, blocking home plate.
That was a beautiful feeling, beautiful feeling.
Well, the only thing I was thinking about, if I ever missed that ball, they'd run me out of Philadelphia so fast, I'll see you later.
It's a 1-1 game in the 9th inning. There's nobody out. You have power hitters coming up. You have terrific hitters coming up. Why send the man from second when there's any question that he might be thrown out at the plate?
Very exciting, I tell you. There was a lot of excitement going on about that time.
That play, that's everybody will talk about that day until we die, because, like I say, Richie didn't have a real strong arm. But Snyder hit the ball so sharp, and Richie running in, caught it on the first hop. And if you'd have seen this fella that's running from second to third, there's no chance of you throwing him out. You might throw him out once out of 1,000 times. And Richie had him by 4 or 5 yards. Lapata's got the ball, waiting for him to come home. That was the amazing thing about it. But the ball was hit hard, and Richie made a perfect throw to home plate. If he don't make that throw, we go into a playoff.
Richie Ashburn's decision to play shallow and then his throw to the plate that saved the day. Afterward, in the Dodger clubhouse, Brooklyn manager Bert Schotten yelled at reporters, "How could Ashburn dare to play so close?" he fumed. "Never threw a guy out in his life. How could he play so close on Snyder?" Meanwhile, you could just picture Whitey, 23 years old, modestly shrugging his shoulders. "Don't really know why I moved in," Ashburn was quoted as saying. "Just had a hunch." The problem was the Phillies were still on the brink of disaster. Reese and Snyder had moved up on the play at the plate, so the Dodgers had second and third with 1 out, and Jackie Robinson, Carl Furillo, and Gil Hodges coming up.
They moved up to second, third, and then we walked Jackie to load the bases, and then Furillo popped up, and Hodges hit a fly ball to Dell. And that particular ball was interesting in itself. The sun was getting down. It was late in the day, and the ball got in the sun on Dell. It wasn't an especially hard hit ball, but it was right at him, and he couldn't see it. And I noticed he kind of caught it against his chest, and it was, he said it just came out of the sun right at the last minute.
So nobody scored. And Newcomb went out into the 9th inning. And then Dick Sisler made Philadelphia history.
9 innings were complete. The game was tied at 1. The final game of the 1950 season, the battle for the pennant, would go to extra innings.
The thing so different with nowadays baseball, and then after the 9th inning, after we got out of it, I led off the 10th inning, and Sawyer let me hit, you know, and that people aren't used to that happening now. And I could hit pretty good. Late in the game, I generally was tired enough not to lunge, and I stayed back and hit the ball. And I didn't hit the ball hard, but I started the inning off with a base hit up the middle, and then Wakus got a hit. Then Richie bunted. I tried to get to third, and Newcomb made a nice play and threw me out.
With 1 out in the 10th, it was Wakus on second and Ashburn on first. And at the plate, left fielder Dick Sisler.
And Sisler was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Short side, 1-1, top of the 10th. And men at first and second. Now Newcomb decides to call time. Real rough moment for this big right-hander. Of course, Roberts had 1-2 in that last of the night. Now Newcomb is set. In the stretch, delivering. Swinging a fly very, very deep toward left field. Moving back, Abrams, way, way back. He can't get it. It's a home run. A home run for Dick Sisler.
Then Sisler, of course, hitting that home run was it just hit us like a shock in the dugout. Wow.
And when he hit that ball from the crack of the bat into left center field, we knew it was out. And you talking about scream on the bench.
The ball was hit good, yeah. Yeah, it was hit good. We all just jumped up when that ball was hit. You had the feeling it was hit good. Oh, you had that feeling, yeah.
Sisler was a skilled hitter, and he just took an outside pitch to the opposite field, and it went, you know, a few rows in just far enough. So it was a tremendous clutch hit.
Oh, the whole ball club went crazy. We all went crazy. We all ran out in the field naturally. We naturally congratulating Robbie for getting the base hits, for starting off the inning, and then we all waited for Sisler to run around.
I remember the last day on a Sunday, I was out playing touch football with my buddies between the barracks, and some guy hollered out the windows at Sisler hit a home run, you know, and the Phillies won the game. So that night they called me from their party.
What did it feel like? I can get on a high just thinking about it, talking about it. I can really get on a high.
But it was a tremendous moment. It's something you never forget all your life. You know, you never forget that.
It's, can't describe it. No feeling like it in this world.
But for the Phillies to hold on to their 4-1 lead, they would go back to the well one more time. Robin Roberts trotted to the mound to pitch the bottom of the 10th inning.
To go out in the last inning, there was no thought of taking me out or anything. It was just baseball wasn't done that, especially that particular team. So the first batter was Campanella, and Sisler wasn't as a good outfielder. He was a fair outfielder, and we had another young guy named Jack Mayo who was a good outfielder. And Sawyer, as soon as he hit the home run, Sawyer put Jack Mayo in for defense. And the first batter was Campanella. He hit the ball pretty good left center, but Jack ran it down, no problem. I think Dick could have caught it too, but Jack caught it easy. And then the next batter struck out, Jim Russell, and then Tommy Brown popped up. And that's when, I mean, when you talk about a load going off your shoulders, that out was, you know, I played ball a long time after that. Never had a moment like that, because that was really something.
Now 0-1 pitch. Change, fouled off, in play, first base side, Wakers under. The Phils won the pennant.
It was fate. That pennant belonged to us.
Oh, yeah, I can still see it. Still remember running out to the mound, all of us. And I looked around, and Willie had tears in his eyes, and Eddie Wakers, I'm talking 2 pros, and they got tears of joy. So we all started crying and shout and scream and yell. And yeah, it was a tremendous feeling.
It was a great sensation. You know, there was a lot of pressure on all the ball players. It was such a relief. You got drained. It just felt like everything just drained out of you. And what a relief it was after, you know, leading the league for so long and then coming down to that last day. Yes, you didn't realize until that last out was out. It was a lot of pressure just released from it.
I remember I knelt down and said a little prayer when I got down near the dugout. I said, look, if you never give me anything else the rest of my life, I'm satisfied with this.
They had a ball club there, was unbelievable. Gil Hodges at first, Robertson at second, Pee Wee Reese, I can name a whole bunch of them. But they didn't beat the Whiz kids.
You can't ever have another feeling like that in your life. The feeling is just tremendous. It's something that you live for. You growing up as a kid, you want to be in the World Series. Here you are in the World Series, playing the Yankees.
Well, that was the greatest part of my career, there's no doubt. I was sorry it was so short as far as the actual success was, but that moment in Ebbets Field was, there nothing else that happened to me ever that was close to that when it came to baseball.
Youthful but gritty Whiz kids had survived. The Phillies were going to the 1950 World Series to take on the legendary New York Yankees. The club's first trip to the series in 35 years. What they didn't know was that the Phillies would not get back to the Fall Classic until 1980. But that's another story. The 1950 Yankees were a formidable bunch. Casey Stengel was the manager. Shortstop Phil Rizzuto was soon to be named American League MVP, and Yogi Berra was in his prime. The Whiz kids in the city of Philadelphia had just 2 days to get ready for the series. On Wednesday, October 4th, it was Game 1 at Shibe Park. Eddie Sawyer decided to go with relief ace Jim Constanti to start the opener. Constanti was coming off a great season, 16-7, a 2.68 ERA, and National League record for appearances, and soon the NL MVP award. The manager didn't really have any better options, and so it would be Constanti against 21-game winner Vic Raschi, and it would be a pitcher's duel. Jerry Coleman sacrificed fly in the fourth inning, scored Bobby Brown, and that was it. The only run of the ball game. The Phillies managed only 2 singles all day against Raschi, and when Dick Sisler struck out in the ninth, the Yankees had a 1-0 win and a 1-game-to-none lead in the series. Robin Roberts got the call for Game 2, coming back on 3 days rest after the big win at Ebbets Field. Casey Stengel named Allie Reynolds to pitch for New York. Again, the Yankees scratched out a run to take a 1-0 lead, this time scoring in the second. Jerry Coleman scored the run on this infield single by Gene Woodling. But the Phillies got on the board and tied the game in the fifth, using a sacrifice fly off the bat of Richie Ashburn to bring in Mike Goliat from third. Game 2 would go on to the 10th inning, tied 1-1, where Joe DiMaggio, nearing the end of his amazing career, would be the difference.
And I didn't feel really good at the start, but I got loose about the 4th, 5th inning. I was throwing good. I was back to normal rest almost, you know what I mean? And then in the 4 times I popped Joe DiMaggio up, twice to second and twice to right field. And I was throwing a good fastball, and then in the 10th inning, I was two balls and a strike on him, and I threw one there, and by God, he hit that ball right in the upper deck, you know, and that was it. That was 2-1. But that was my only World Series.
Now trailing the series 2-0, the Phils went back to the Bronx for Game 3 on Friday, October 6th. The Yankees again took a 1-0 lead, but Dick Sisler drove in Del Ennis with an RBI single to tie the game in the top of the 6th. The Phillies kept on fighting in the top of the 7th. Mike Goliat laced a single to center. Rennie Hamner beat out DiMaggio's throw to the plate, and it was 2-1. The Phillies had a lead for the first time in the series. It was short-lived. In the bottom of the 8th, with 2 out, shortstop Granny Hamner bobbled Bobby Brown's grounder as Jerry Coleman came in to score. Tie game, 2-2. And in the bottom of the ninth, it was the unheralded Coleman again, driving a base hit to left center to score Gene Woodling with the winning run. 3 games, 3 one-run losses, and an impossible 3 games to none deficit. 68,000 fans poured into Yankee Stadium to see the Bombers go for the sweep. The Phillies finally had no fight left. Jim Constanti was pitching again, this time in relief, when Yogi Berra connected for a solo homer in the 6th. That made it 3-0, and shortly afterwards, the Yankees extended the margin to 5-0. The Whiz kids rallied one more time, registering 2 runs in the top of the 9th to make it 5-2. But that was it. Stan Lapata struck out to end the inning, and the Phillies were done.
We were just, I think the World Series for us, perhaps maybe, was just an afterthought after grinding through that, try to win a pennant. And, but the series was just an afterthought.
In the space of about a week, the Whiz kids had gone from being the toast of the town to just plain toast. They just had nothing left, beginning with that 1 week in mid-September when they lost 3 of their 4 starting pitchers. The Fightin' Phils had chalked up just 4 wins while suffering 14 losses. But one of those wins was the incredible victory at Ebbets Field on October 1st. And all of the success that had come before it, the little winning streaks in May, the solid confidence-building play in June and July, the awesome 29-9 stretch from late July through early September, all of that put the World Series into perspective.
We were disappointed we didn't do it more, and not to win a World Series, but under the way that was set up with Curtin leaving and the injuries, it was the pennant itself was a tremendous accomplishment for that ball club.
You know, we knew we won the pennant. We knew that we weren't really up for this thing. We tried like hell, but we weren't ourselves in the World Series due to the fact that we were just emotionally spent.
We were in every ball game. Base hit here, base hit there. Yankees didn't make any mistake.
Then we didn't have enough time to regroup to play the series. The Yankees beat us 4 straight, although we were in every game until the last out.
Well, I think right then we were just really thrilled to death to be there, winning it on the last day of the season. And we were going to battle them, but like I say, it wasn't the same feeling like we had against Brooklyn.
I think the series might have been anticlimactic. We were up so high that last week of the season, and then we had 2 days off, and we played the Yankees, 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 in extra innings. We could have won all 3 of those games with a timely base hit, but we didn't get it, and the rest is history.
For much more on the Whiz Kids, check out the Classic Zone at ComcastSportsNet.com for the box score of the October 1st game, complete team stats, and much more. I'm Al Meltzer. Thanks for watching.